Hey, this is the franchise Shane Douglas, ECW's original World Heavyweight Champion. Right now, you're watching the #1 wrestling podcast on all of Long Island, Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
With Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 Monty and Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Monty and Pharaoh.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh. To the Monty and the Pharaoh Show. And it's Monty and the Pharaoh, baby.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
With Monty and the Pharaoh. Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a run.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut the fucking music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible. Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Not just dreaming it, we're doing it for real. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to leave a better way.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Pharaoh. Good morning, Mr. Hansen.
Hello. And to my right is none other than the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow.
Hey, yo.
Yesterday we had Lanny Poffo in. Thursday we had Coco Beware, and it just keeps getting better as we have none other than Hall of Famer, WWE, WCW, New Japan. The list is just too long, and it's too early in the morning to tell it. Stan Hansen. Mr. Hansen, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Great to be here.
Great to have you. How was your flight in?
It was good. It was raining last night when I came in, but good flight.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than raining. So I'm going to let the Pharaoh have at you, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Pharaoh.
Well, off to the races, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce our esteemed guest. Born August 29th, 1949, John Stanley Hansen
Nice.
II. Born in Knox City, Texas. Current residence, supposedly, Waco, Texas.
Waco?
Yeah,
Is that true, Waco?
That's what it says here, but,
Well,
subject to
I
change.
did live there about 9 years. Yeah.
Okay.
I was
My son went to Baylor, so I moved there.
Okay, all right.
4 children. Career, of course, under the build name of Stan Hansen, 6'4", 321.
Nice.
I'm not messing with that. Build from Borger, Texas, of course. Trained by Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk. Debut January 1st, 1973. Retired January 28th, 2001. Oh boy, here we go with the resume, folks. Hold on to your horses. Worldwide Wrestling Federation, 1976, 1980, 81. New Japan Pro Wrestling, 1980, 81, 1990. All Japan Pro Wrestling, 81 to 90. American Wrestling Association, Tractor Not Included, 1985 to 1986.
Tractor Not Included.
World Championship Wrestling, 1990 to 91. Okay, how about the belts, folks? How many belts we talking here? Oh my God, really? Really, bro? Really, bro?
Listen, we only got
All right.
we only got an hour.
Let
so
me see what I can try to pull the meat out here. There's of several NWA international titles, but what I see here though, PWF World Heavyweight Championship 4 times over in Japan. That's as big as it gets. PWF World Tag Team Championship 4 times, holding it with Bruiser Brody, 2 times with Ted DiBiase, 1 time with Austin Idol. Another huge accomplishment. Triple Crown Heavyweight Championship 4 times. Oh my God. World Tag Team tourneys over there are very, very important. He's won these 8 times. Terry Gordy. Oh yeah, I can't even. Oh my God, this list is very long. Ted DiBiase was also one of the folks that he won the titles with. As we move on, I know he's a former AWA World Heavyweight Champion, obviously. CWA International Champion.
See, Stan, you could have ate your sandwich during this whole thing,
he
bro.
He could have had 4 sandwiches.
So if anyone doesn't know, we cut the
could've.
video because Mr. Hansen didn't
Yeah.
have breakfast, so we wanted to give him time to have some quick breakfast. But he could have just sat through this whole thing and just had a full course meal, actually.
But hitting the guy with the lariat, being forced to wait for the red square for the meal, that's a little rough. NWA Georgia Heavyweight Champion. We loved Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Two times. A tag team champion in Georgia with the great Tommy Wildfire Rich 2 times and Ole Anderson. Mid-Atlantic, United States Heavyweight Championship, World Tag Team Championship, Mid-Atlantic version with Ole. Then there's NWA Tag Team Championships.
Can't you just say he just won everything and
Well,
just
you know
call
what?
it a day?
But you know what? I did a pretty good job. I think we've gotten the main meat, and of course, the most important thing of all, if I can get to that, because I know it's here. I just want to make sure I got the date right. But the WWE Hall of Fame, was that 2016? I believe.
He says it sounds
right.
fine.
Yeah. And of course, PWI ranks him as one of the all-time greats in basically everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I am exhausted. This is Stan the Lariat Hansen.
Wow, man.
Unbelievable.
I almost went to sleep.
Oh, my God. Well, it's the meal. It's very heavy. You know what I mean? Especially this time in the morning.
So, Stan, to start it off, can you tell the fans why you got into professional wrestling?
Well, my dream was to play football, but I didn't. I went up a couple of years for Baltimore, back when Baltimore was Baltimore
Colts,
and then San Diego and everything. And after that, I got cut both times, and I went into teaching for a half a year, starving, making $500 a month, and I said, golly, anyway, and I met Terry Funk, at West Texas State, where I went to college, and got kind of on the fringe, got to know him and everything, and he was interested in asking if I wanted to get into wrestling, and I was pursuing football at the time. So anyway, after I was teaching and realizing how am I going to raise a family and all this other stuff, Terry got a hold of me again, and anyway, that he got me into the business, and the rest is history. So I really owe it to Terry Funk, and the Funk family too. Of course, Junior was the heavyweight champion at the time. He was traveling the whole time, so I didn't really see him a whole lot. But Terry, I got to know actually, and we're close to this day.
Any interest in pro wrestling before the idea was offered to you?
Well, I was, I started going to the matches in college to watch Terry Funk, because he played at West Texas, and Dory Jr. played at West Texas, so that there was a history there, and the football program there at West Texas was really a great program for a small D1 school, and it was good. And so anyway, that's my interest got into wrestling by just kind of knowing that Terry Funk and the Funks were part of that business. And
was the training process smooth for you as you were learning how to take the bumps and throw the blows? How did that go for you?
Well, there wasn't no training, man. I mean, actually, I guess they
right into
they
the
got
fire,
me together, and they hit me with a couple of forearms, and
Okay.
told me how to grab a headlock, and after that I got in the ring with some at the show. I mean, there was no training other than that, and then I got in and I just kept my ears open, and luckily I was around. There was a number of really great talent in the Amarillo territory at that time. I mean, just top talent. They could be in the main event one day, and then they could be working with some opening guy like me, you know, the next day. But Carl von Steiger and Moose Morawski, those two guys from Winnipeg, Canada, but they were in the Amarillo territory. They were instrumental in really teaching me a lot, you know, in the ring, in front of the people, you know. So it was learning as I went.
How does Vince Sr. become aware of you, and how do you wind up in the WWF?
Well, you're jumping way ahead, but
okay.
You know, anyway, I worked 2 or 3 years there, and
well, you can take us through the in between.
Okay. Anyway, I mean, basically, I'd worked in a number of territories and everything, but
besides Texas, where else?
Before the Louisiana territory,
okay.
And I went to Florida, you know, the very first year for about 6 months, and then back to Amarillo, and I hurt my knee, and you know, then I was out a little while, and then I came back, and I went to Dallas territory, and there I met Red Bastien was the booker, and a guy named Mike Padusis from Steubenville, Ohio. He was good friends with Bruno. He saw me wrestling. He was basically retired, but he lived in Dallas, and he saw me, and I guess he went and talked to Bruno, and Bruno gave me a call and everything, and then I guess he talked to Vince, and that's how I got into New York.
Did you enjoy your time in the territories, and how would you compare the territories to when you got to the bigger levels later? Did you enjoy the territory days?
You know, territory's territory. You know, whether I mean, you know, you got the great venues like Madison Square Garden and Boston Gardens and the old Spectrum, and you know, so here in the WWF days, you know, it was. I mean, it was one of the top places you were hoping to get, mainly to work, you know, for Vince Sr. and also work with Bruno, because that's one of the top guys in the whole country, and you know, so everybody's dream was to get to New York, but you know, the NWA was a great you know, organization, and there was a lot of different territories there where you can make some, you know, good money too, you know.
Did you have a particular favorite one? Territory, like, you know,
really.
Did you prefer going to Georgia over Florida? Did you like Texas the most?
Georgia.
Being home.
You know, I enjoyed Georgia. You know, Ole Anderson was the booker. A lot of people, you know, give him a knock, but he was a smart, one of the better bookers.
Look, you are the first guest.
We've been hearing a lot of stuff
that gives Ole Anderson some props.
Okay,
nice
good.
job.
Well, you know.
Well, I mean, he was.
Hear both sides
he
of the
was
coin.
smart, and he was, you know, and he booked 2 different territories. I mean, he was booking Georgia, and he was booking Charlotte, and you know, I mean, you know, later, you know, George Scott was the booker at, you know, in the beginning there, and he was real successful too. But,
why do you think other wrestlers had a problem with Ole Anderson?
well, because Ole told it like it was, you know, and a lot of guys, you know, they want to hear that you're the greatest and you're doing this, and you know, you're the prima donna. I don't know, Ole, you know. He ribbed really hard, and he ribbed straight, and you know, so that got him in a lot of trouble. A lot of people couldn't take it. We got along from the beginning, because when he started talking about you, whatever you want to call me, big fat dumb Texan or whatever, I said, well, you short Polak, you know, just, you know, I mean, I just come back at him, and I think that's how we ended up getting along, because I think that's what he was looking for. You know, and but anyway, he rubbed a lot of people wrong, and I seen him treat some people wrong, but you know, he treated me right, and I mean, I made more money in the Georgia territory, and I left at 5 o'clock in the evening, 6 days a week. You were off on Sunday in the beginning, and you know, I made more money than half the people in the Charlotte territory, which was the big place.
Well, yeah, it seems to be right. You're just a businessman. Pay me, Pay me what I want,
right.
and do whatever you want.
Right.
I could care less. Just
Yeah,
give me some money.
I mean, you know, I was in it to try to make money. You know, I mean, that was my way to try to make money.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, someone's saying, just pay me.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. I'll figure out the rest of my business on its own. Bruno gives you a call. Did you know Bruno before this? Did you ever meet him?
No.
So,
it's all done through Mike Paducas.
Okay.
Yeah. But I talked to Bruno first, and then we talked on the phone, and evidently he must have called Vince and put the word in.
Did this blow your mind a little bit? I mean, Bruno spotted you, basically.
Well, I mean, maybe I was too naive to think about that, but you know, but I mean, I had a great relationship with Bruno all the way until he passed away. You know, and we always touch base a couple times a year. He liked me, I liked him. You know, he was a class act, man, and I mean, I could talk an hour on Bruno. You know, what a great guy. But yeah, so evidently and then I worked with him and I hurt him and I broke his neck. You know, I slammed him on the back of his head and wow.
Did you get crap from that? Did senior pissed at you like, you just destroyed my company? What are you doing?
Well, he didn't say company, but you heard Bruno. He was pissed. He came in. And I knew that I got it. You know, didn't get him flat or whatever. You know, but we went on with the match. And then when he came in, and said, "You heard Bruno?" I said, "Well, you know what? I didn't because you know we went through the match." So anyway, luckily it didn't do any damage.
Can I ask you this though? Did you get also fall out from the locker room too? Because Bruno was their paycheck, right? Yeah. And they're all looking like you may have just cost us a lot of money.
It's exactly right. That's that happened because the way they did it. I don't know what order, but it was Ivan Koloff, and then Ernie Ladd and Billy Superstar Graham. Those were the three guys that had worked with Bruno before me. And they still had other towns, other Washington, Philly, all this other stuff when I come into the Garden. And then I heard him, so they're out. I mean, they don't get to work with Bruno in those towns. It cost them a lot of money. And there was some underlying, heat, but it was very professional.
Can you share any of those?
Ernie Ladd was class guy. I mean, he gave me some great advice, and to this day I took it, and Superstar Billy Graham and Ivan Koloff. I got to know Ivan really good later too, and But anyway, it happens. I mean, it happens. I mean, people get hurt in wrestling, and people get killed and die in wrestling, and it's the word fate just always I can't handle
Stan,
it.
did that affect the way you worked afterwards? Like, were you now like really nervous that you might hurt somebody else and kind of pulled back?
Yeah, did it change
affect your character?
No, I probably went out and went the other way.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I mean, I
kind of like that.
I mean,
I kind of like that.
I've never tried to hurt anybody, and I mean, but people get hurt. I mean, I got my knees tore up. I've had 15 surgeries. So don't it happens, and it happened with Bruno, and that was a bad deal, and I felt really bad about it. But Bruno was class act. Don't worry about it. Just protect yourself. Protect myself. So, I mean, I took that for granted.
And no one tried to take any liberties with you after those matches? Like, I'm going to make this guy pay for costing me some money or anything like that?
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
Plus, you could have handled yourself anyway, right?
In the ring or anything. Nothing.
Okay.
It's physical go-getting thing, and if I have a strong point, there was a lot of guys a lot stronger than me, but I could actually go for a long period of time.
Stan, what was more difficult, training and working professional wrestling or being on a football field?
Well, it's a completely different different deal. There's the pro football and or college football. It's a tough sport, but I think that foundation of football carried me forward, and a lot of the guys my generation, from Bruiser Brody, the Funks, Dusty Rhodes, they were all football players. Bobby Duncombe. All those guys came out of Texas football and everything, and they were. It made you be able to do good in pro wrestling, but I think that foundation of having to get up, keep going, I think that was my strong point.
You were a natural heel. Did you ever want to play a face, or were you very
well? I
comfortable
was.
with the heel?
I turned country redneck guy, in Georgia there for against Ole and Far Ole and everything, and had a good run, but I felt real natural. I like being the, it's Cowboys and Indians, John Wayne, movies, growing up. I liked being the bad guy, it was easy.
I'm gonna hit you with a pretty hard question. Answer if you want. You wanted to be a football player, and obviously there's a difference between football and pro wrestling. Back then, pro wrestling certainly had a stigma against it. If you were a wrestling fan, you were kind of in the closet. You didn't want anyone to know that you were a wrestling fan.
To take heat.
Sneak to the garden and not be seen, and was there any point that you kind of, obviously you one of the all-time greats, but was there any point you were embarrassed of being in the industry?
No, never. I went out and I went all the way. The Funks, I think the Terry and them and Dory Senior, they just said, we expect you. We break very few people in. We think that you can do good, but you treat this business really good, and it'll treat you good. And I just took that to heart, and I knew that I was going to get tested, by a lot of these older guys, and I'd been through the football camps and realized that the veterans had a special place, and then there's rookies, and so it's the same thing in wrestling. I was a rookie in the beginning, and I was all ears, and I said, you know what? If I can make $350 a week, I can take anything.
There you go. Nice.
Because I was making $500 a month teaching.
That's right.
And I said,
teaching
I can take
pro
it.
wrestling. Now, isn't that weird? A teacher, $500 a month. Pro wrestler, $350 a week. A little unfair, you think?
Yeah, something's a little off there.
Well,
teaching the future,
a week and a month. That was the deal. I did my math. I could do the math. Thank goodness. I said, "Oh my God, that's $1,000."
Dealing with snot-nosed kids for $500 a month, or having fans licking my boots on a daily basis for $350 a week. I'll take that.
I was a coach. I enjoyed I enjoyed what I was doing, but the bottom line was, how do I raise a family on $500 a month?
Yep.
And so the opportunity to
Besides, have you thought about this for a second? You hear there's a substitute teacher coming in for the day, and you know how we used to get excited. We're going to cause problems. And he walks in.
Yeah, right? That's
I quit. I'm out. I'm cutting out that class. Forget it.
That's funny, because that was the substitute teacher's worst nightmare as a student. You find out that we have oh God,
that's what I'm saying.
Abused. Literally, I should have been kicked out and everything.
Throwing pencils at them when their back is turned. Oh my God,
it was horrible.
And
then here I was. I ended up being a substitute teacher, and of course everything had changed. 180
How did the lariat hand out discipline to the students? I got to hear this one.
I just sent them to the office. You're right. Go to the office.
Missing a limb, maybe.
Yeah.
Describe for me Vince McMahon Sr., if you can.
Well, he was very he was first class. He was a classy dresser. He looked the part. he was the owner and everything. I used to call him, and because the other superstar and all, Koloff, everybody, they told me how they, by not, I'm telling you this, but just in the conversation of how they handled their business with Vince. And so here I was coming in, but I was really green. And I've only been working a couple of years, 3 years, I think. And so I ended up, well, I'm in here as the top guy, and I want to be treated like a top guy. And so that kind of rubbed some people the wrong way because I didn't have a big old long history. These other guys had all been top guys all around, somewhere else. So, but anyway, so I would call Vince up and complain about a payoff that should have been $200, and I was getting $150. And one time he actually said, "You're calling me up in the late at night, complaining about $50." And I said, "Well, $50, and you multiply that times 300. That's a lot of money to me, Vince." So he felt, and he rightfully so, probably that I didn't appreciate or realize the opportunity. But we're all apples. There's not apples and oranges when you get into the ring. That's the way I see it.
That's right.
Everybody's equal.
100%.
Do you feel that your size may have spared you some razzing in the locker room over the years? You're a big man.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe some of that played in? Like maybe they think twice before they razz this huge kid?
I tell you, my generation of guys, and I don't know about how it is in the locker room now, but when I broke in, everybody basically got along. I mean, there was very few.
Okay.
There might have been something behind the scenes,
But it was handled and it was done.
But I'm telling you, professionally, when you go to the ring, everybody was on the, you shouldn't be hurting people. You don't do things, if you hurt people. And of course, I hurt Bruno.
Way to go, Stan.
Yeah, so but I mean, we all got along. I mean, and like I said, Bruno even told me, he says, I've been hurt 2 times. Both of them from West Texas. Bobby Duncan broke my arm, and you broke my neck.
Wow.
So
He was very supportive of you, though.
He was.
And do you think that helped with the heat that you may or may not have received during the afterwards?
Yeah,
he was very supportive of you.
Yeah, good.
That had to carry weight with some of the guys.
If he would have been vindictive, or if he would have, gone the other way,
this could have been bad.
I've probably been. I mean, I've definitely been out of the territory.
Interesting.
Stan, you were talking about superstar Billy Graham. So at some point, Bob Backlund becomes a heavyweight champion. You come back into the territory. Superstar Graham was not happy. Just we've had Larry Zabrisco in here. Larry thought Bob did a decent job trying to carry the company. Who could carry after Bruno. Superstar Graham clearly wasn't a big fan of Bob's, or just didn't think he had the goods.
He didn't feel he was the drawing power. Well, how did you feel about Backlund's ability to draw, especially after Bruno? Did you see a decrease in attendance? Anything that would indicate that Bob wasn't?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I knew Bob and I was. Bob was in the Amarillo territory as a green boy also. And that's where I met Bob, and without a doubt, he's probably the best athlete that I ever saw in wrestling.
Really,
best conditioned, also, right?
Conditioned and everything. I mean, he could go. I mean, he was just a great physical athlete.
Is it true that Senior would put the strap on guys that he knew would be able to handle business if it got real and someone tried to mess with the territory?
I have no idea. You have to ask somebody else.
Okay. I mean, if Backlund wanted to shoot on you, you guys had a problem. Could you have taken Backlund down, or would he have stretched you?
Why would that happen? Oy, oy, oy.
Take down? I might take him down if he let me.
If he let me!
Well, there you go. There's the answer right there.
You know, growing up during that time period, Bob Backlund, we always took very seriously because of his amateur background. You had to.
Yeah.
So he was clearly athletic.
He was a great. He's just a great athlete. He played. He played football. At North Dakota State, I think, and he was amateur wrestler. He was All-American, in wrestling, and All-American in football. I mean, he was just a great athlete. A lot of guys came out of that Minnesota, were good, good athletes.
Can you compare Bruno to Backlund for me, if you can?
No, I don't think I can. I think they're just
very different, obviously.
Two different individuals, two different styles. You
were able to work with both, obviously, with no problem at all.
I work with Bruno probably. I work with them the same way, I guess. But they were two different styles. So it was just different. But
Did you get butterflies? You were in pretty main events, right?
Man.
You were in the Shea Stadium, right?
Yep.
With Bruno, that finisher.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also were in a steel cage match with Backlund in the
I
Garden.
remember that. Yep.
A guy, did you get butterflies or was it just business? You were good to go.
I can say. I can't remember the first time I worked the Garden or something like that. My dad was from Brooklyn. He went to during World War II. He went to Texas. Met my mom from Texas, and so we only went back a couple of times. In fact, he went back for the first time when I was here in '76. I brought him and my mom down. Anyway, What was the question? I got off on something.
Did you ever get nervous? Right. So you came from the southern areas.
Nervous-wise, by then I don't think I was nervous. I don't think me hurting Bruno had anything to do with nerves. Some people have insinuated maybe I was too green or something.
Well,
but
I'm kind of saying,
I'd been in main events and big shows and things. Down in Louisiana,
but Louisiana crowd, I have to assume, and I could be wrong, 5,000 people at best, and then going into the Garden or Shea Stadium, where you got 20,000 people, Stadium, right?
That was, but by that time, I'd worked the Garden 2 or 3 times, and some other big shows and everything. Like I said, I wear glasses. I need glasses, but when I take my glasses off,
nothing there.
Vision stops here. There's people out there, but there's no eye contact. I can't tell. That's a reputation in Louisiana. I said, "God, you're so damn brave." The guy had a big knife out, and he was just. He said, "You get out of here, I'm going to cut you." And you just jumped right out there in front of him. I said, "God, I didn't see that." That's pretty funny. God, I'm glad. Ooh, I wish I.
The next week you got a bodyguard next to you. Let me know if anybody tries to cut me. Oh my God!
And that was the other thing about the South, and of course, it happened here too. There was a lot of the fans went nuts, but down in Louisiana, and everybody carried a knife, and most everybody carried a gun. So it was, and I carried a gun for a long time, and but I found out that. That's just going to get you in trouble. So,
Louisiana's a scary place, man.
Yeah, well,
I was there 2 years. Very scary.
Let me tell you, the arena in Philadelphia is a scary place.
Well, that's true too. Kudos.
How about getting your first taste of Japan? How does that all come in? Because for the folks at home who are not aware, you are. You're pretty up there in Japan. You're basically one of their, if there was a Mount Rushmore in Japan, I think he might be on it. How does this all come about?
Well, I chose Japan, and I can get into the whole story, but the Funks were booking for Baba All Japan, and Inoki was working with Vince, and Vince was sending talent to Inoki and New Japan, and so I went with the Funks sent me over there the first time. For Baba, underneath guy, Bobby Jaggers and Larry Zbyszko was on that tour, you know, and Abdullah the Butcher and Ox Baker. I can still remember and going there and you know, I had an experience, and I came back, and then I went to New York, and Vince on the way out, he booked me for New Japan for a couple of tours with Inoki's group. And of course, I was there at Shea Stadium when Inoki fought Ali and everything. And the only place that whole thing drew was in the WWF territory, and it was because this was Bruno's return from me hurting him, and he came back, and people came to Shea Stadium to see Bruno.
That's right.
And I had a friend, ex-wife. She was in the stands, and she said that she couldn't believe, you know, there were people wearing, I mean, just like these fur coats, and I mean, you know, just really dressed, really rich people, and they just sat there through the whole thing. But when Bruno came out, she said, I mean, people jumped up and people were literally crying.
Wow.
And she said, I've never ever seen anything like that. And so that, you know, they came to see Bruno come back, because I heard him, and he was out for 2 or 3 or 4 months or something, right?
In your opinion, was Bruno the greatest of all time, or would you put Hogan above Bruno?
Well, you know, Bruno. I think in this area, Bruno, Hogan, you know, reached a complete, you know, his own great level,
stratosphere.
But I'd say that Bruno in the Northeast during that time, for sure, was over as anybody.
So you were a territory guy too. So Ric Flair has been known to say that Bruno couldn't draw out of the Northeast. Did you find that to be true?
Well, I don't know. You know that I don't know that kind of history on Bruno. He never had to go outside.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
yeah,
you know,
that's what I'm thinking.
Fair enough.
He was happy to live, be home.
Took my line. Fair enough. What do you think made you so over in Japan? What was it with the fans that they just gravitated to you? What was it? And how hard was it?
Well, it took a long time. I mean, you know, it wasn't something that you just did. You know, I went there, you know, like I said, and worked for Inoki's group through Vince, and they came to me at the end of the second tour that Vince had set up, and they asked me, "Are you working for Vince, or are you working for you, or what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm working for myself. I'm not
nice.
You know, I am.
There you go.
I'll make my own decisions and everything." Vince booked me in here, and I appreciate that and everything. But so they were looking. Well, so they were interested in me maybe coming back. He says, "Well, maybe in about a year or so, we'd like for you to come back if you know." I said, "Okay, good." So I left and I went to Georgia, and had a great run there. And then, you know, from there, I ended up, going back, and New Japan called me, and I went back.
Is that the way it works, though? So Vince books you over there. I'm sure Vince is getting a substantial piece of the action.
I have no idea.
Well, I imagine. And then you're kind of doing business for yourself, which is fair. Does that cause a problem with Vince, that he knows you're doing business behind the scenes, or does he even care? Or does it work like that?
It probably did. And, you know, I looking back, you know, I made a few stupid comments and was feeling my oats or whatever, you know. I regret now, but you know, it was just me and my personality, I guess, trying to establish in my independence. So this was later, after I was coming from New Japan, and they had given me this opportunity, and they were pushing me, and I was doing really good. And then Andre and I got involved over there, and Andre was the guy that really got me over in Japan. I mean, I say that I owe it all really to Andre.
Can you share a story about Andre?
on the air.
Which one?
Yeah, on the air.
Absolutely.
Give
the
us
one that you're
the,
afraid to share. Share
the Stan Hansen Gem Andre story, if you don't mind.
No,
it's only 40,000 fans.
He was. I mean, he was. You know, Andre was probably one of the smarter guys in the business. I mean, that's first and foremost. He knew his position and what he needed to stay involved and be. Because, you know, Andre the Giant can go over. He can only work so many three-man squash jobs in Japan. He can't work against the Noki, you know, in a one-on-one match. You know, so he's smart. He sees me getting the push. You know, they're pushing me, and I'm getting over. And he was smart enough to say, I need an opponent. I mean, this is all my words. This is not what Andre said. This is just my assumption. But he was smart enough to say, and anyway, so they threw us in there, in tag matches or whatever, and I fought Andre. Most people, nobody fought Andre. He just beat the crap out of you and throw it. But I fought him because I was in this position and I was trying to get to this top spot because I knew that the top spot was, a great spot in Japan.
Besides, how can you be afraid of a guy you can't even see?
Yeah, well,
you were basically like,
he blocked out the sun, so
you blocked out the sun.
One of the scariest sights in the world is when you're laying on the mat and Andre's standing you over like this, and he's got a foot on both sides of your chest, and he jumps up and he comes down with his ass. I mean, this ass is big and it's coming down, man. I tell you,
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Were you intimidated?
But he never hurt me.
No intimidation whatsoever when you were first approached with the idea of fighting
the thing is,
this is the biggest man you've ever been in the ring with.
He realized that I was stupid enough to fight him. And I just kept fighting. I wouldn't back off, and I just kept fighting him.
Nice.
And he was smart. He heard the people, and the people reacted. So anyway, he says, "Well, here's my opponent. Here's somebody I can come to Japan with and work with, and make." And we ended up. It's one of the great matches of all time in Japan. Is the match in the tennis stadium.
Well, he was smart enough to let you get your shots and to keep that program going. Did you ever try to outdrink him?
What?
You couldn't. There's no point in trying. No, I didn't. I didn't ever try to outdrink him, but he outdrank me a bunch. He could drink.
That's great.
And I seen him drink. And they had like big trash cans with ice, and they had like cases of these big Kirin beers. I mean, like 2 or 3 cases by his seat on the bus. And he would drink, and then he loved Crown Royal.
Wow.
And he used to, but I going to and from, I never saw him drunk, or even the least bit out of control or anything. I mean, he could just handle it. I mean, he's 450 pounds. I mean, he could handle it.
Stan, did any of the fans back in the day try to test you? Maybe you were at a bar, maybe you were hanging out.
What? I mean, more at the, I wasn't a bar guy, so, Terry Funk gave me some great advice one time. He says, if you ever get into a beef at a bar, and it's settled, or whatever, it's separate, but if you ever get in a beef, take a few minutes, leave, go to another bar. Because the guy will go out there, sit out in the parking lot, drink 2 or 3 more beers or whatever, and then come back in, and you'll have a fight on your hands. So, I mean, that advice got me out of, a lot of things. And I didn't, in Japan, I went out to bars because it was just, a completely different environment. Never had to worry about ever getting in trouble or getting in a fight. But in the States, I didn't really, after 12 o'clock, nothing good happens.
The traveling to Japan, that had to be a drag, right?
It was. I mean, it was a drag, but I made a great deal, once I started going, and luckily they treated me well going over there. But I mean, they traveled on the bus. You didn't, you basically had to know what time the bus left in the morning and what time the bus left for the show. and if everything else, you're on your own. So it was a good environment. I liked it. There were long bus rides and so forth and so on, but we took the Shinkansen. We
Did it affect your home life at all, though? I mean, you were gone for a long time. Is the wife like, I'm tired of this, enough's enough, you're in Japan 3 months straight, or whatever the case is?
You see Andre more than you see me, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
I don't know. My wife, I've been married 35 years, she's Japanese. So, we met over there.
Look at you.
And, we've been married.
Check
we got
it out.
a couple of kids. We got a couple of grandkids.
There you go.
So, it was just the best thing ever happened. That was better than going to Japan. But,
there you go.
I mean,
so,
how do you mean?
I was going back and forth, but then we were back here and I was still going to Japan. I did have to be gone for 3 weeks at a time, and it was tough, but
when you met your wife, do you speak Japanese?
Skoshi.
I have no idea what
Yeah, what's
Well,
Skoshi?
that
Is that something you eat?
Is that yes or no?
Yeah.
No habla Japanese.
That's another hamburger, please.
No habla Japanese.
No, but did your wife speak English? How did that even happen?
Everybody takes in Japan. They start taking English in about the 5th grade, and so everybody can speak, but they don't. A lot of people don't get an opportunity to speak it in conversation, and become fluent in it. But she could understand a lot, but she basically learned English.
Now, does she have a Texas twang now since she's been in Texas?
A Texas twang?
That's a story.
Let's hear it.
She's flying back. She's flying back from Japan on her own. She had been over to see her family or something, and she was coming back. So she gets off the plane, and at this time, I was living in Mississippi, where my older kids were, and we were living there. And so she got off the plane, and she says, I was talking, and somebody on the plane, they were talking English, and we were flying from into Dallas, or from Dallas, Mississippi. And they says, "Are you coming away? I live here." And she says, "God," and somebody told her, he says, "God, you speak really good English, but you have a Southern accent."
That is great.
So she told me that, and I said, "You know what? You want to take pride in that. That's good.
That's great.
I
love it."
Listen, I want to get this question in because it's been burning in my head for the last few minutes.
By the way, I told you the Pharaoh is a huge fan of yours.
Oh my God!
And also a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Me and Stan kind of bonded a little bit. If I could share.
Yeah, I caught that.
Me and Stan were kind
Must
of
have been
talking about
McDonald's.
how much. Not that we're just not huge fans of the pro wrestling.
Well, I'm a fan. I am pro wrestling.
Yeah,
I'm
pro wrestling.
Stuff.
I gotcha.
I don't watch any of it.
Right.
But I'm a pro wrestler. I'm proud to be a pro wrestler.
Damn straight.
But it wasn't, it wasn't my. It was a job.
Right.
And it was an opportunity to make some money. That. In life.
Yep.
Before you get this in, because you're going to take it from here, because you've got some good pro wrestling questions. But I know you don't watch any products nowadays, but when growing up, wrestlers were wrestlers. Like, you're a big guy. I don't want to feel like I could kick the shit out of a pro wrestler. You know what I'm saying?
When you're watching at
How do
home.
you feel about everybody now being a pro wrestler? 120
There's some
pounds,
small guys
130
out there.
pounds, 180
They're
pounds.
tiny.
Back in the day, that wouldn't...
I can hold the world heavyweight title now. Look at me. What are we talking here?
This
is not good.
Like I said, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't keep up with. I know that there's the WWE, and through my going to the Hall of Fame thing 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and I got to see and meet some of those guys, and you end up.
Well, you got some indie shows you're going to today.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's great talent in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Talent is talent. So I'm not saying that my talent was bigger or better, but it was just a different type, a different style, and everything.
Different approach.
But there's great talent.
I'm gonna say it for you. Your talent was better. You're gonna go to an indie show today coming up. Take your glasses off.
Then I won't be able to see anything.
Exactly, that's the point.
You'll live
That's
longer.
good. You had me going the other way.
No, you'll live longer. You'll digest your meals better. Yeah, you take your glasses
That's
off when
funny.
you go. Yeah, it's rough. But I gotta ask you this because you said earlier, I've thought about your WWE career, WWF career, and I always felt that you left there early, and there were many more years of your career. And you said earlier that you were feeling your oats, you were growing into the business. Did you cut your career short with Vince to do other things and maybe regret that a little bit? I'm just curious because there was so many more years you had after the Backlund stuff. You could have come back and maybe won the belt. Did you ever think about it? Just curious.
I mean, it's just like that. To get off on another. I never ever thought about that I would be the champion.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I wanted to chase the champion, whatever territory it was. I didn't want to be the champion.
Did you ever want to come back to the Federation?
Well, I mean, in the same thing.
I missed you.
I never thought that I would be the world champion.
Right.
Well, but
here
Vern,
in the WWF or the AWA.
Well, Vern gave it to you.
Never ever even thought about it.
So you like? What do you like, Vern? Please keep the belt. I don't want
I didn't
it.
say that.
But you
but
were
I
world-
said it was a big, huge surprise.
Well, world championship material, though. I mean, to the fan, it was obvious.
Well, but anyway, getting back to the WWF and the, why I left was Bruno gave me some great advice.
Uh-oh.
He says, don't stick around and let everybody beat you on the way out.
Good advice.
He says, when you get finished with me,
Kept that
get
value
out.
up. Yeah.
And you know
Okay.
what? I take those guys. I mean, I took what he said.
Junior ever
to
try
heart.
to bring you back after you left?
You know what? In Japan, when I worked with Hogan in the Tokyo Dome, and that was a thrown together match because
Nice throw together.
something wrong with Terry Gordy had some problems or something. It was a joint show and all this stuff, and so anyway, there's a backstory to the whole thing, but there's just not enough time. But it's just anyway. I went over there and worked with Hogan, saved the show, because they weren't selling any tickets and anyway, and then all of a sudden they announced it with me against Hogan, and I guess they did like 20,000 people in like a couple of days.
Well,
or
that's
something.
how you get into No Holds Barred, right? Because you did
Well,
a great
I mean,
job,
yeah,
and they're like, "Come on!" And by the way,
His favorite
great acting
His-
job in that. You
his
were
favorite
incredible.
movie.
You were
I want to
fantastic.
send him to
in
a
that.
shrink. It's his favorite movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? Stan's
Yeah.
a rip in that.
I wish
He's a rip in that one.
I wish I could have, pursued that a little bit more. Not
Well, like maybe
any
a soap opera, like a love interest character of some kind.
No,
No.
Bam! Yeah.
Oh my Lord! When does the loud?
Let me tell you about big, nasty, ugly guys.
Okay.
Is that there's a lot of women that are attracted to them. I mean,
Hell yeah.
beautiful women.
Hell yeah!
And when they find an ugly guy that they really like, they love him.
You know what? I disagree. I can't seem to hook up with anybody.
He's having a rough
And
time.
I'm a big fat ugly guy.
It's just a dry. It's just a dry spell. It'll pass.
Real
Somebody
quick.
told me that. And I don't know if it's true.
Compare the major promoters: Vern, Junior, Senior. Thoughts on the three? Everybody knows your story with
Well,
Vern and the
I
AWA.
want to finish.
Okay,
Sorry about Vince.
go ahead.
He during that Dome show or something like that. I went out and had the match with Hogan and everything, and so he says, when you get rid of, when you get ready to give Japan up, give me a call.
Oh, okay.
Bring you in, but I never gave up Japan, and Japan just kept going. So
There you go.
never did. But he, that was a nice gesture on his part.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Sure. So the differences between Vern, Junior, Senior, business-wise, any
You
thoughts
mean
on that?
Vern? Did you say Vern
Yeah.
Jr. and
Well,
Vince
we got
Junior,
Vern.
Vince Senior, Vern. You want to throw Crockett in there? Throw Crockett in there.
Sure, why not?
I don't-
Different philosophies.
I
Your
didn't,
take on that?
I wasn't involved. I never had much to do with Crockett.
That's right. You went
did
to
it all through
WCW.
Ole.
Gotcha.
I wasn't, and you know, Vince Jr. was, you know, basically just running. He had 2 or 3 towns, New Haven, and I don't know, some other towns that he promoted. But Vince Sr. was the main guy when I was here. When I and I think both times in '81 too, Vince Sr. was still there because the Japan people flew me into New York, and we met with you know, the McMahons, and they made you know, the Japanese people made, you know, some conditions on how I was to be treated and come to and everything. And I told the Japanese people, you know, basically, you know, nothing in the middle of the ring, no job. And I said, well, they'll never accept it. You know, they won't do that. Well, we had this meeting and everything, and they accepted it. I'm in shock, right? So that was the second Shea Stadium where Zbyszko and Bruno were working, and you know, I don't know anything else. So I went to the show. I went right up to Bruno and told him. I said, "Listen, I made some kind of deal here, and I think I'm going to come in and work with you, but the condition is, you know, nothing in the middle of the ring. You know, how does that set with you?" And he says, I mean, you know, he paused a second. Really? He's probably thinking, really? Anyway, and he says, I don't care. I said, okay, that's all that mattered. If you're okay with it, then I don't care. You know, so that's how it was. And you know, and they stood by that until the very end, and they put pressure on me to do that, and I refused to do it because, you know, that was a deal. And but anyway, after that is when Vince, he said, please come back, you know, if I was ready to give Japan up. So I appreciated that, and I just never came about. But you know, he treated me good, and you know.
So tell us about how a title finally does, a world title finally does wind up around your waist. And your good buddy Vern in a particular track to trail.
Well, I didn't.
5. Okay.
I didn't. You know, like I said, I was never thinking about getting the belt, and you know, if they wanted to use somebody as you know, just to give it from one babyface to another, you know, I'm not the guy. You know, and you know, I wanted to make money. You know, I mean, golly, you get a chance to be, you know, the main event, the world champion, and at Chicago, Minneapolis, you know, Oakland. I mean, you know, God, I can make a lot of money, you know, and I never made no money. They promoted me against you know, a bunch of job guys. You know, 5 months into it, I'm the champion.
5 months in,
you know, or I don't know, you know, the exact date, but
slow boat.
A number of years,
right?
I mean, months,
right?
And they're still giving me squash jobs. And I said, well, give me Kurt Hennig. Right. You know, give me. You know, I can go out and have a match and you know, tear the house down with a great baby face like that. You know, and no, you know, our forte is the television. And I'm going, God, really? So anyway, it you know, so here I am, and then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, they come, you know, I want you to drop it to Nick. No.
Bockwinkel.
Yeah. And I respected Nick. I mean, I like Nick.
Sure.
And I have nothing negative to say about Nick, but he's Vern's guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And Vern, you know, you know, Nick told me a number of times. He said, I told Vern, I told him, don't spring it on, don't spring something like this on Stan out of the blue. You know, he's not gonna react.
Do you regret trashing the title and running it over?
Well, tell the fans what happened there for those who aren't aware. Vern wanted the belt returned. Obviously, you took it with you to Japan, correct?
Which I did.
You took the belt with you to Japan.
I was going to Japan.
Good for you. Okay.
I was going to Japan.
So he wants it back in the mail. Champion. Is that the story? He wants the belt back in the mail, and you decide to tell us what you did.
Well,
there.
I mean, they sent some kind of nasty a legal letter saying that they own the belt. And,
really now?
And they did. And I mean, you know, in the back of my mind, I knew that I couldn't just keep on with the belt.
Okay.
But anyway, when it came, you know, it was damaged when it got back to him.
Might have had a few mud tracks on it.
Did Vern call you and be like, was he?
No,
angry?
I never talked to Vern. Actually, it was Jerry Blackwell stopped me. We just happened to be on 285 Circle of Atlanta, and we pulled up beside each other. I had no idea he was there. He had no idea I was there. I was there with my family, and we pulled over to the side of the road, and you know, he said, you know, Vern wants the belt back and all this stuff and everything. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know about giving him back, Jerry. You know, I don't know. And so after that, it wasn't long after that when the big letter came and everything. So anyway, I sent it back, and it was theirs.
Yeah.
And you know what? They had already made a new one.
Right.
They had already made a new one that they had already gave it.
Trickery.
They had already gave it to Nick. You know, the new belt, not the old big old piece of shit belt that you know that it was, you know, made in some prison or something.
It was pretty gaudy.
I mean, it was this big.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
it was pretty big.
Basically, it was made at some prison in the thing. That's what I heard.
Really?
But
oh my Lord!
That said, I respected the belt as the champion. I'm not trying to belittle it. You know,
that's great.
Everybody, you know, but I mean, but it was a gawky looking belt, and they had another one already made for, you know,
for Nick.
So
right.
You know, good for them.
You're in New York. Can you? We've got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
You have I heard you might have a subway story. Most recently, could you share that with the fans?
Well, I don't know about recently, but back in '76, I'm coming in from New Haven. I lived in New Haven. I was driving the subway in to do some kind of interview, and I got my cowboy hat and bleached blonde hair. I'm sitting in the thing and on the subway. The train's going coming into New York, and I see this old guy with the little, you know, goatee and nice dressed to the, you know, really nice suit and everything, and he has a cane, and he's sitting there and he's looking at me, and I go, you know, you can always tell when somebody's looking, you know, if you make eye contact and they're looking, so you know. So I'm saying, oh yeah, okay, this guy's recognized me or whatever and everything. So he stops. I'm still on the train. He gets up and he takes a step towards the door, you know, and he turns back and he's got this little cane, and he goes, bam! Man, he hit me hard, you know, with the cane. You son of a bitch! You broke a Bruno's neck, and he hit me about 3 times, you know, with this cane. And I'm going, hey, you know. I mean, the guy's 80 years old, you know. I mean, he's an old man, you know.
That's great.
And all these people are looking at me. Said, God, what did he do to him?
What did you do?
He got off the train. And that was it.
But you did nothing to him. You did it to Bruno.
Oh, that's great.
Lord.
Well, you know, I want to thank you for joining Monty and the Pharaoh today. And do you guys have anything to promote coming up the rest of the weekend?
Oh, yeah. We'll be at the House of Glory show tonight.
House of Glory? Where's that at?
It's in Queens at the NCY Arena.
NCY Arena in Queens,
Yep.
okay.
And then we'll be at the CZW Wrestle Pro show tonight.
Okay.
And then Mark down at Meadowlands.
Mark out of Meadowlands. That's Nick's promotion. He's actually taking a shot at it. So hopefully you guys do well tonight. Again, thank you for gracing us with your appearance here on our little radio show here, our broadcast. And
the bad thing is, you get an old man to start talking, you can't get him to shut up.
Man, I loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of it.
That's all right.
Works for me.
All right. So once again, thank you for joining Monty the Pharaoh. We're coming back in about 5 minutes with superstar manager J.J. Dillon of the Four Horsemen. So we'll see you in about 5. Pharaoh.
Later.